They called me broken. They called me broken. They called me broken. Not once, not in passing, but like it was my name. Like it was etched into my skin the moment I was born. Like I was nothing more than a crack in their perfect world. They didn't shout it, they whispered it, and somehow that hurt more. They didn't need fists, they used glances, they used silence, they used the weight of absence and the sting of low expectations. They smiled when I fell, clapped when I conformed, and disappeared when I bled. They called me broken, because I felt too much, because I spoke when they wanted silence, because I cried in a world that only rewards the numb. I was told I was too emotional, too fragile, too intense, too quiet, too loud, too different, too human. They called me broken because I didn't wear the mask, because I refused to stitch a fake smile over my bleeding soul, because I couldn't swallow the poison of pretending everything was fine. So they labeled me, mocked me, abandoned me, and the worst part, I let them. I let their words become gospel. I let their judgment become scripture etched across my chest. I let their voices echo louder than my own, because when the world keeps telling you you're broken, you start to believe them. You stop fighting. You stop questioning. You shrink. I shrank, not because I was small, but because they were afraid of my size. So they caged me in doubt, bound me in shame, starved me of validation. They didn't break me with hammers. They broke me with silence, with cold dinners and colder words, with empty rooms and full judgments. With every moment they looked at me and wished I was someone else. And I wanted to be someone else. I wanted to be what they loved. I wanted to be enough. So I bent. I folded. I reshaped myself into 1,000 forms that never fit. But no matter how much I changed, they still called me broken, because they never wanted me whole. A whole me would have been dangerous. A whole me would have been fire. A whole me would have made them uncomfortable. And that was the crime I committed. Not failing, not falling, but daring to exist in a way they couldn't control. They stitched that word into my skin. Broken, like a curse, like a warning label, like a prophecy. And I wore it. I wore it like armor, but it felt like chains. I started to hate my voice, hate my thoughts, hate the mirror, because all I saw was what they said I was. Useless, unworthy, a problem to be fixed or forgotten. I begged for love, begged for approval, begged for someone to tell me I was whole. But love never came. Approval was conditional, and the silence, it never left. And in that silence, in that deafening, soul-crushing silence, I broke. Not all at once, not like a shattering glass, but one quiet crack at a time, a slow unraveling, until I could no longer tell where their lies ended, and I began. And when I was finally on my knees, when I had nothing left to fight with, when my name sounded like a curse in my own mouth, I did the one thing they never expected. I listened, not to them, not to the echoes, not to the shame, but to the tiny voice buried beneath the rubble. A whisper, a breath, a pulse still beating in the dark. And that voice said they were wrong. But it was too late to go back, too late to undo the damage, too late to explain the scars, because I'd become something else, something they couldn't chain, something they couldn't predict. I had become the sum of every wound and every survival. They called me broken, and for a while, I believed them, but not anymore. They broke me, and then they left me in the ashes of my own silence, left me to rot inside a mind they called too loud, left me with memories that bit like wolves in the dark. I didn't fall gracefully. I fell like thunder, hard, ugly, alone. I wasn't dropped into the fire. I was pushed by hands that once claimed to hold me, by mouths that once whispered comfort and later swallowed their guilt. They turned their backs, and I turned inward. Have you ever screamed so loud your soul shatters? But the world doesn't even blink. I did, night after night, screaming into pillows, into clenched fists, into silence. No one heard, or maybe they did, and chose not to care. That's the part that haunts you, not the pain, not the loneliness, but the knowing that people saw you breaking and decided you were easier to ignore. They called me dramatic, overthinking, too much, too unstable, too emotional. So I stopped talking. I stopped reaching. I stopped explaining the tremble in my voice or the flood in my chest. I drowned in a place without water and suffocated under a sky that offered no rain. You think the fire kills you all at once, but it doesn't. It starts slow, a flicker of hopelessness, a spark of doubt. Then the burn crawls across your ribs like a sickness, and suddenly, everything hurts, even breathing. You wake up feeling heavier than your body should be. You carry grief that has no origin, only weight. You look in the mirror and don't recognize the eyes staring back. Not because they're unfamiliar, but because they're empty. That was me. Empty, weightless and drowning at the same time, falling from rooftops made of dreams. Dreams I once stood on, proud, hopeful, bright, now shattered beneath me like bones on concrete. And the people who watched me climb, they weren't there when I landed. No hands reached down, no voices called out, only silence, again. And yet in that silence, something stirred, something I didn't recognize, something that didn't ask for permission. It didn't scream, it didn't cry, it burned, faint at first, like the final ember of a dying fire. But it didn't die, because something inside me refused to go quietly, refused to be erased, refused to be forgotten. Call it rage, call it madness, call it survival, but it lived, even when I didn't want to. I was lying in the center of the fire. My skin was ash, my heart was coal, and still something inside whispered, not yet. I wasn't ready to rise, but I also wasn't ready to disappear, and that was the beginning. Not of hope, not of healing, but of resistance. A seed planted in the pit of my despair, rooted in betrayal, watered in silence, fed by every night I spent screaming with no answer. That seed didn't grow into something soft. It didn't bloom. It sharpened into thorns, into teeth, into the kind of strength that doesn't look beautiful, but survives. And in that fire, I didn't find peace. I found pieces of who I was, of who they buried, of who I could still become. I fell into the fire, and I burned. But something didn't die. It evolved. They thought I died in that fire. But fire doesn't kill everything. Some things It awakens. What crawled out of that blaze wasn't the same thing that fell in. I didn't come out healed. I came out sharp. I came out unrecognizable. I came out dangerous, because what survived wasn't soft, wasn't gentle, wasn't made for saving. What survived was made for war. You see, they were waiting for me to get better, to bounce back, to return to the version of me that was easier to control, more obedient, more manageable. But I didn't heal, I evolved. And evolution doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't cry. It doesn't apologize. It doesn't knock on the door of your comfort and ask to be let in. It breaks down walls. It burns the blueprint. It builds something you were never ready for. My pain didn't fade. It fermented. It thickened into something unholy, something ancient, something that could not be tamed. I stopped praying for rescue. I stopped waiting for hands that never came. I stopped hoping that someone would see the flames and come running. No one came, and that was the lesson. That was the gift. They didn't save me, so I stopped waiting to be saved. And when you stop waiting, you start building. I built myself out of the ashes, with bone, with scars, with fury. Every piece of me now hums with purpose. There's no softness here, no space left for approval or permission, no room for weakness dressed as hope. This isn't healing, this is reinvention. You think I wanted to become this? You think this version of me was born from joy? Number this. This was born from betrayal, from isolation, from every "I'm here for you" that turned to dust in my hands. This version of me is the sum of everything I was told to hide. The darkness they feared, the voice they silenced, the rage they called too much. I am all of it now. Unfiltered, unforgiving, untamed. I carry every scar like scripture, each one a verse in the story they tried to erase. And no, I didn't forget. I didn't forgive. I remembered, and I used it. I used every insult, every cold shoulder, every door slammed shut in my face. I melted it down, molded it, wielded it like a blade, because what they meant to kill me with. I turned into armor. Let that sink in. The same pain they thought would bury me is the reason I rise now, unstoppable. I don't want their sympathy. I don't want their apologies. I don't want their words. I want them to look at me and realize what they created. Not a victim, not a survivor, a weapon. I am the consequence of their comfort, the backlash of their betrayal, the echo of every cry they ignored. I stopped asking. I stopped explaining. I stopped needing. I stopped waiting. I stopped pleading. I started becoming. Becoming what? What they feared, what they denied, what they tried to break and failed. I am the aftermath, the evolution, the end of who I was, and the beginning of who I choose to be. I buried parts of myself, not in mourning, not in weakness, in strategy. Piece by piece, I let go of what made me soft, what made me reachable, what made me bleed when they touched the wrong memory. I buried innocence, because innocence gets slaughtered. It's a luxury for those who never tasted betrayal. I buried it deep, so it would never beg again. I buried hope, not because I stopped dreaming, but because I stopped begging those dreams to come true. Hope is a leash when tied to the hands of others, and I will never again kneel for what I can take. I buried the need for approval. Their validation was a poisoned cup. I drank from it once, and it almost killed me. Now I spit it out, because the only admission I need is my own. I buried apologies, the ones I whispered for existing too loudly, the ones I carved into my tongue just to make them stay. I buried them with precision, not with sorrow, with purpose. But not everything was buried. Some things I kept. I kept the memories, not to relive the pain, but to remember the cost, the price of forgetting, the risk of trusting too soon. Memories don't make me weak. They make me exact. They make me strategic. They make me dangerous. I kept the hunger. Oh, I kept it. The ache, the drive, the fire in my ribs that never asked for peace, only fuel. They thought the hunger would fade if they starved me long enough. But they didn't understand. You can't kill what feeds on itself. I kept the promise, the silent vow I made when no one showed up, the oath I etched into my bones when every door closed, the promise that I would return, not to be accepted, not to be loved, but to be remembered. I built an altar with my pain and knelt before no God. Because gods didn't answer. People didn't answer. So I stopped asking. I became my own prayer, my own savior, my own reckoning. This version of me, it's not healed, it's not peaceful, it's not soft, it's precise, it's calculated, it's necessary. I don't forgive, I don't forget, I evolve. I no longer carry the burden of becoming who they wanted. I carry the weight of becoming who I was meant to be when they failed to see me. So don't mistake my silence for surrender. It's focus. Don't mistake my coldness for cruelty. It's clarity. And don't confuse my detachment with emptiness. I'm not empty. I'm full of everything they tried to kill. I didn't let go, I sharpened it. They made me a monster, and they smiled while doing it, as if they thought I wouldn't remember, as if I wouldn't adapt. They planted a demon and thought it wouldn't grow, but they forgot. Even shadows crave the light. They gave me this name, Monster, like it was supposed to shame me, like I would bow beneath the weight of it. But I didn't bow. I grew teeth, and I learned how to bite back. They thought pain would paralyze me. They thought abandonment would break me. They thought silence would keep me soft. They were wrong. So beautifully, dangerously wrong. Because I took every insult, every slur, every shove, every whisper behind closed doors. And I forged a language out of it, a dialect of vengeance, a voice so sharp, it doesn't speak, it cuts. I stopped chasing love. I stopped begging for redemption. I stopped asking to be let back in. I don't need a seat at their table. I'll burn the table down and build a throne from the ashes. They trained me with every betrayal, conditioned me with every silence, tested me with every wound. And now I'm fluent in the language of war, and mercy is not in my vocabulary. This version of me, it doesn't crave peace. It doesn't seek forgiveness. It calculates. It observes. It waits. Because real power doesn't scream. It doesn't need to. It moves in silence. It strikes with precision. They called me cruel, but cruelty implies enjoyment. This isn't enjoyment, it's necessity. I didn't ask to become this, they forced my hand. They taught me that kindness is seen as weakness, that softness is devoured, that love in their world has a leash. So I broke the leash, and I became the thing they feared. Not cruel, corrective. Let's get something clear. Monster doesn't mean evil. It means uncontainable. It means they can't define me, can't chain me, can't look me in the eyes without flinching. I am what happens when survival stops apologizing. They thought I'd run from the label, hide from it, deny it. Number I wore it, like armor, like a crown. Because the truth is, they didn't create a monster. They revealed it. They peeled away the humanity they never earned. And what was underneath was never theirs to control. They taught me how to endure. I taught myself how to hunt. Because monsters don't beg. They don't break. They learn. I learned where the cracks in their systems lie. Where their morality ends and their fear begins. Where their smiles fade and their truth trembles. And now I am not the wounded. I am not the forgotten. I am not the outcast clawing at closed doors. I'm the storm they never saw coming, the nightmare they handcrafted, and now can't outrun. They wanted a villain. I gave them a god. They call me untouchable now, but not because I'm hidden, not because I'm protected, not because I built walls so high no one can reach me. Number, I'm untouchable, because there's nothing left in me that can be broken. You see, being untouchable has nothing to do with safety, and everything to do with sacrifice. It means you've already been torn apart, already burned alive in silence, already tasted the kind of pain that rewires your soul, and survived. You want to know the truth? I'm not afraid of pain. I've lived in it, bathed in it, let it peel me open like a blade tracing my ribcage, and now I wear it, like armor, like proof, like prophecy. You think you can hurt me again? Hurt me. I dare you. Because I've stopped running from the fire. I stand in it. I breathe it. I let it dance on my skin until even agony bends to me. I don't fear pain. I command it. Because there's a freedom, a terrifying, divine freedom that comes when you realize there's nothing left to lose. I've bled for people who vanished, cried for ones who watched in silence, died and came back so many times, I've forgotten what peace feels like. But power is knowing you don't need peace to rise. Power is choosing to burn and walking through the flames without flinching. They say I've changed. They say I'm colder now, sharper, darker, good, because I remember who I used to be. I remember the softness, the fear, the hope that someone might reach down and pull me from the wreckage. That version of me. He begged. He waited. He shattered at the sound of his own voice echoing, unanswered. That version of me is gone. Now when I speak, the air trembles. Now when I move, the ground learns. I am no longer the one who gets hurt. I am the one they whisper about, the one they watch from a distance, because they know. I'm willing to burn for what I believe in. I don't need comfort. I don't need approval. I don't need to be liked. I need to be unstoppable. Look at yourself. Look at your scars. Do you see weakness? Or do you see proof? Proof that they tried and failed. Proof that they hit and missed. Proof that you bled, but never broke. I burned. And I became everything they feared, everything they couldn't chain, everything they tried to smother in silence and shame. I burned, and I became. I became relentless. I became unyielding. I became the story they tried to erase, etched into existence with fire and fury. I burned, and I became. I didn't rise untouched. I rose, scarred, smoldering, blazing with everything they left me to die in. And now they call me dangerous. Not because I kill, but because I refuse to kneel. They call me ruthless, not because I lack mercy, but because I no longer waste it on those who never offered it to me. They call me untouchable, because when they look into my eyes now, they don't see fear, they don't see softness, they don't even see hate. They see fire, and not the kind that warms, the kind that consumes. I'm not safe, I'm not calm, I'm not waiting. I'm done hiding, done shrinking, done pretending. Let them come, let them try, because I burned and I became. And now, even fire fears me. Let them come. Let every lie, every whisper, every weapon they ever forged march in my direction. Let them rise from the shadows they once hid me in. Let them sharpen their tongues, their knives, their schemes. Let them come, because I don't run anymore. I don't bow, I don't flinch. I stand, unshaken, unforgiven, unforgettable. I am not the wound now. I am the weapon, not the tragedy, the retaliation. They spent years trying to silence me. Now every breath I take is thunder. Every word I speak is war. They tried to erase me, but I learned how to write myself in blood. Permanent, final, feared. Let them speak. Let them scheme. Let them shout from rooftops that I was too much, too dark, too far gone. Let them, because none of it matters now. Their words are wind. Their fear is fuel. Their presence is permission. I am not afraid of them. I am what they fear when they close their eyes. I am not the victim. I am the reckoning. And this time, I don't knock. I break doors. I burn bridges. I swallow the silence they left me in, and I spit out it a storm. They tried to cage me with kindness laced in control, tried to bury me in guilt, tried to drown me in doubt. But monsters don't drown. They rise. And gods don't beg. So let them hate, let them fear, let them fall, let them hate, let them fear, let them fall, let them hate, let them fear, let them fall. I don't need allies. I don't need forgiveness. I don't need anyone to clap for my comeback. Because I didn't come back. I took over. They wanted a broken soul to pity. I gave them a legend to fear. I walk now not to be seen, but to be remembered. And every step I take is a reminder that I wasn't built to fit in. I was built to take over. I don't carry shame. I carry scars, not as signs of what was lost, but of what was survived. These marks, they are my armor. These eyes, they've seen the end. And still, they burn. I've become everything they tried to destroy, everything they swore would ruin me, everything they prayed I'd never become. And I wear it, like a crown, like prophecy, like punishment. Let them speak, let them scheme, let them come. Because I won't be moved, I won't be touched, I won't be tamed. I've tasted chaos, and it tasted like freedom. I've kissed the edge of destruction, and it felt like home. I am not what they expected. I am what they feared. I am the war they tried to avoid. And now I am here. So let them come. Let them come with their doubt. Let them come with their judgment. Let them come with their noise. And watch how I silence it all. Watch how I walk through their fire and set the world ablaze in my name. They called me broken. They buried me like bones in dirt. Now I walk untouched, crowned by scars, and every time they speak my name, they tremble. They tried to silence me. Now every echo is mine. They tried to erase me. Now I live in the pause between their heartbeats. I am not a lesson. I am the warning carved into the walls they built to contain me. I don't need to be forgiven. I don't need to be loved. I don't need to be welcomed back. I just need one thing: to be remembered. Louder than the lies, sharper than regret, deeper than fear. So remember this: you didn't break me, you built me. And when they whisper my name, make sure they whisper it afraid.